I'm Joyce Hornady. You might say accuracy is my business. I make bullets.
You are listening to the Hornady Podcast.
Thanks for joining us and enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. This is the Hornady Podcast, and I'm your host, Seth Swerczek. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. Excited to have you guys back because we've got a great episode teed up for you. Got some good friends, some local friends from Zermatt Arms. We got Ray Heusinkvelt and Aaron Tritsch. Guys, thanks for coming on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having us.
Now, before we get into it, before we start talking about Zermatt and what that means and where that product has gone and what you guys all do, I really want to know what you guys do because I've known you guys for a while. And somebody asked me, what's Ray's actual title at Zermatt? What's Aaron in charge of? I'm like, well, I can tell you, if I ever need anything, I just talk to him, but I don't know what you guys actually do. So before we get into Zermatt as a company, and before we get into this long list of questions that our listeners and your fans sent to us, I want to start with you guys individually. So any of you guys can take this, but I want to know what got you individually into hunting and shooting. What were you doing as a kid that got you involved? What you do now and where you sit at Zermatt.
Yeah, I can go first.
Yeah,
so
shoot it.
started out hunting and fishing growing up. Grandpa, dad, uncles, a lot of upland game, bird hunting, fishing.
Back when it was real good here.
When it was good. I haven't done that in a lot of years,
Yeah.
but still do a lot of deer hunting, coyote hunting, that type of stuff. Just love to shoot along the side of that. My grandfather was a gunsmith. Had a gunsmithing shop in his house. That's where I took a passion to firearms as a whole with him. Kind of learned how to do some of the machining stuff. From there, going through school, I graduated high school, joined the Air Guard, and that's where I met Aaron in the metals tech shop. Machinist, welder there. I've since left the Air Guard, but met Aaron, came on to Zermatt in 2017, just recently after the Bighorn Arms acquisition at that point in time.
Okay.
So when I started at Bighorn, Zermatt, we were doing all TL3s. That was the only product that we had at that point in time. When I started as just a machinist. That's all I did. I did all the action production, receiver body-wise. Didn't do anything with the bolt, but receiver production. That transitioned into me doing the assembly work while he was handling, program updates and everything else, as he'll get into on his side. And from there, I morphed into kind of an operational human, I guess, is what I am. I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I'm the person that answers the phone. I put your orders in, process your orders. And then in addition to our day-to-day stuff, I'm the one out on the floor making sure that people are what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how much of what they're getting done. How things get done, that is all Aaron. Aaron is the brains behind all of that kind of stuff. But I'll do anything from answer the phone to ship a part. I receive POs, process them, make sure that things are just running in a big circle, as much as a circle as we can run in. There's
just organize the chaos, essentially.
Yeah, and there's plenty of chaos to be had, that's for sure.
Always is, especially in a manufacturing facility, and I'm excited to get to your facility. And we talked about this on the podcast before, but you go to any manufacturing site, you go down to our production floor, we go to your shop, you go to any other shop that's making stuff, and they all have that same smell. Yep. That's kind of cool. Ray, it sounds like your background that got you into the industry is so incredibly similar to literally every guest I've ever had on the show. It all starts at a young age, and I feel like that's a really important point to the consumer because I feel like a lot of consumers look at us as manufacturers, big corporate owned or whatever, and they have this idea that there's just people in suits and ties running stuff or whatever. Reality is this is a passion. We're here because we do this stuff outside of work too, and it starts at a young age. That's a cool story. Ray, I still don't know exactly what you do or what your title is, but that was a good peek into your day-to-day. Aaron, what about you?
So the opposite, honestly. So I grew up, I think until I was, 14, something like that. And for Christmas, I told my dad I wanted a 22. I wanted a rifle. Up until then, we didn't have guns in the house, and I was like, I kind of BB guns and going down to the pond and shooting frogs and stuff like that.
That looks cool. I want one.
Yeah. And then, aside from that, I've just been a see it, take it apart. I was that kid, take it apart, mom's vacuum cleaner to see how it works.
Yeah. Could you get it back together?
Always. And
all right.
That was kind of
the difference. That's the separator.
That was the thing. Like the mechanical or learning how to do things and building things in high school, I skimped through high school, but just
A in shop class.
A in shop class. I think my senior year it was teacher aide, so I had a couple classes, but I had 3 different periods of teacher aide and shop class and my shop class. So I was in shop class for 4 periods of my senior year.
That's not fair. How do you do that? I want to do that. I should.
Small town school, man.
I love it.
But so I was like, I had set like I love building stuff with my hands, and I wanted to be a welder. So my brother was in the Army. My brother's 10 years older than me, so there's a bit of age gap. And he said, "No, you're not joining the Army. I'm not going to let you. You're not going to join the Marines." He's like, "If you're going to join something, join the Air Force." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever." He's like, because he was always talking about how when he was deployed, they were across the street in the hotel and he was in the tent,
Yeah.
So I got in the Air Force and was like, "Oh, machining. Okay." Well, started getting into it, learning it. And I'm like, this is way better than welding. Like, I don't want to do welding.
I like to weld.
Yeah, I like to weld.
Only weld.
But yeah, you get into machining and then it just kind of like a fish in water. It took off. It all made sense. And now I'm rolling. I'm counting down the drills to retirement to 21 years.
Well, thank you for your service, both of you guys. That 21 years is a long time to do do anything.
I'm ready for ready to close that chapter. But yeah, I met Ray and at that point, I worked in a couple different machine shops and I met Eric and Scott Jansen at Silencer HQ and they were talking about purchasing Bighorn. And they wanted, they were looking they didn't have the manpower to run that, right? The shop was a busy shop,
Sure.
And it was a new division. So they brought me on to do that. And AJ and I we just hit it off. Originally AJ was going to come down for like 6 months. We bought all of his tooling. He brought his programs and his models and everything. And he started teaching me some things about actions and just kind of figuring it out. And we hit it off so well. And AJ ended up staying for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And him and I, I learned everything about the TL2 and we were going through everything. And I was like, hey, what if we do this? This can be better. Hey, we have this machine. We can do this better. And then we just kind of, we developed that and then we just took off with it.
I love it.
And then after that, like it was like, the TL3, okay, let's just knock the lug off of it. Let's see what we can do to make a more budget-friendly action. That had its hurdles as well. We learned a lot. It's been a huge learning process,
Sure.
Throughout the whole deal.
I think that's what keeps you hungry.
Right. Yeah. And then it's just been one thing after another. The Remex action was great. I have leaned into, I love shooting rimfire more than centerfire now because it's enjoyable. There's something about shooting a 22 at 300 yards and hearing steel ring. It's
Because you look
great.
at that little pipsqueak, there's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, can I rack 2 off before the first one hits?
Yeah.
It's like stuff like that. It's been funny. So a lot of people don't know, I talk about it once in a while, but the Remex, I was drafting and designing and doing stuff for the Remex on my off time when I was deployed in Afghanistan in 2018.
Oh, wow.
So, and then when I got back, it's like, all right, and we started hammering it and, spent about 6-8 months working on the action and then another year on the magazine.
Oh, boy. Yeah,
So
yeah.
magazines
It's the little details, that make it right, but it is what makes it right.
Right.
And those things are smooth as silk, like a sewing machine.
Yeah. It was the whole flat breech face thing was, the me being stubborn in my ways, like everybody saying, well, that's impossible. You can't do that with a rimfire. Hold my beer and watch this. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's been a process, but yeah, the day to day, like we started first year, we did like 200 actions in 15, 16, and then we got into the TL3 and yeah, I did everything from running the machines to answering the phone call and kind of taking orders and passing off. office manager took care of the order side of things, but I mean, from customer service to assembly to run the machines to doing everything, I did it all that first 2 years, and then we brought Ray on. He ran the machines and learned the product, and then we got to a point where we're like, all right, you're good with people, and you're running machines.
I have people skills.
And then I'm trying to do the people stuff and the development. I was like, and we kind of switched hats. And then it's never looked back. It's been great.
That's awesome. Unique story, and much more of a competitor than a hunter, it sounds like, but an important part, because as a competitor, you understand a lot of the feature sets that the demanding competitor really wants in a product.
Right. Like, what do I want it to do? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know about that if you weren't actively involved.
Right.
And that's just another big point. Before we move on to the questions, I think it's important to address this right here, Bighorn Arms. Let's talk about what Bighorn was, what they were doing, where they were located, et cetera, and then the transition to Zermatt.
Yeah. So AJ, who he referenced earlier, AJ Goddard was the designer of and the original owner of Bighorn Arms. He had a series of actions that he developed before that I found out over time from old customers coming back. Hey, I need X, Y, and Z for this. Does it work? I'm like, well,
we got a machine shop.
Let's see if I can ask somebody what we've got and figure out what we can do to make it work. But he started in Brighton, Colorado.
Okay.
It was a retirement project for him, and a retirement project turned into something that he saw value in, and that it could be more than just a retirement project. Got it to a point there again where he was ready to retire a second time, and needed a suitor, somebody to buy it, and that's where Eric came in. And I don't know all the inner workings of the business acquisition and who was all paramount in making that happen, but they packed everything up, moved it to Bennett. We maintained
a town of a couple hundred.
Small town there. Yeah.
That's the small town Nebraska stuff. That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah. There's, and the one thing about our facility, when you drive into Bennett, there's a bank on the north end of town, and then there's this building that appears to be a church or a community center. That's a machine shop. It
looks very unassuming.
It does.
It's got the billboard out front that looks like it would say, like, we churching on Sunday, 10:30 a.m.
It's an old marquee, exactly.
Once upon a time, they delivering flowers for you. So the building's the same color as the church on Main Street, 3 blocks down.
Right.
And a guy walks in with a clipboard and 2 bouquets of flowers, and he walks in and he goes, I think I'm in the wrong spot. And I'm like, yeah.
So moved everything into this facility. I believe that was 2015, 2016, somewhere in that wheelhouse. Like Aaron said, continued to produce the TL2. They designed the TL3, left everything as the Bighorn Arms name. Had some paperwork things come up on the name Bighorn, and ended up with the advice that we needed to move to something different, something other than Bighorn.
Something very Scandinavian.
Yeah. Zermatt Tool was the parent company. That's still Zermatt Tool today in the facility. We already had on the FFL ZAI, which was Zermatt Arms Inc.
Okay.
So it was ZAI / Bighorn Arms.
Easy day.
At the time, we were already marking the origins. That is a big misconception. The origin is referred to as the Bighorn origin. Never once in the history of the origin has it ever been labeled Bighorn Arms.
Okay.
It's only ever
Zermatt.
Said Origin ZAI Bennett, Nebraska on it. So it is a Zermatt product. Yeah. There were some hurdles along the way with that kind of change, but we already had, like you said, had everything on paper to make it go that way. So change everything to say Zermatt Arms, ZAI Bennett, Nebraska, per ATF's recommendations and rules on that.
What other products does Zermatt Tool, is that a completely separate company? You guys make a lot of other products for other industries.
Yeah. A lot of little widgety stuff for like bioscience engineering. We still have quite a few bioscience customers. We had a whole kind of aerospace division. We had several horizontals and the 5-axis that were really set up for big aerospace projects. And then that's actually kind of how the chassis was born, because 2020, the pandemic and all that awesomeness, the aerospace just completely tanked. And we're like, okay, well,
we got these tools.
I remember I drug Eric to a local match, and got a couple beers in him. And on the way home, I was like, see, we can do this. Like, just turn me loose.
People shoot chassis.
Turn me loose. Let me do a chassis. Just let me go. And that spooned into a much bigger project. We spent a little bit too much time perfecting it.
Yeah. Well, it is perfect. I mean, kind of is akin for the listener that hasn't seen one. If you've seen the American Rifle Company Xylo, or what we affectionately refer to that as internally as the ugly duck, the Matterhorn just looks like a little bit more enhanced version of that kind of wood/aluminum blending of technologies, and then super ergonomic.
Yeah,
that's the benefit of the chassis.
That was the goal. And when I originally looked after it, I've always loved the look of like the Boyd stocks and the laminates. Like I've always really loved that. And I wanted to do that, but I needed something better than wood, because wood doesn't hold up in a match. You can't go take a wood to a match in a match rifle. It's just going to get beat up
to snot.
Yes, there's not going to be anything left of it. So it took me a long time to really kind of narrow down that material. And then I had a batch material, and I ran some prototypes, and I'm like, hey, this is awesome. And then I went to the company. I was like, yep, I'm ready. I want to order a bunch of it. And they're like, oh, we can't make that. It was a prototype run of material, because
cool.
I talked to the engineers, and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that. And they made me a batch. And then it's like, all right, give me a bunch of it. Sorry, we can't do that.
Fitting.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, but that product, it's a classic take with modern ingenuity.
It is
to bring in, the ideas of companies like Masterpiece Arms and MDT, bring them in and pair them with the classic look that Boyd's, HS, everybody that's doing that composite stock type of deal, and put it all together that way.
And that's kind of been a goal. Ever since the conception, is that the classically modern look, like
of every product,
of every product,
yeah.
Right? So it's a custom action. But it's sleek. We haven't gone down the faceted path. It's just that old classic.
Yeah, it just looks right.
Clean,
it looks
the old
like
classic
a nice
clean look,
Yep.
Right? And that's just kind of been our preference, and a lot of our customers like it. A lot of our customers still ask for faceted actions. It's like, okay, well, maybe we'll get there. We're just It takes time in a smaller company. I think we're at 21 employees.
Yeah, full time. But how many guys on the firearm side?
Six, eight. Yeah.
It's tough.
We have Corey, our lathe wizard. We have, up until just a week ago, we got another guy running lathes, but we have 6, 9-axis, or there's 5 of the 9-axis mill turns, and the 4-axis lathe, and then 2 more twin spindle, twin turret lathes run by 2 guys.
Wow.
So the efficiency is where we really...
Yeah, it's hard to design new products and something that's going to be extra machining steps when you're already kind of stretched thin.
Yeah,
that's a good problem to have, though, because there's always room to grow.
Right, exactly.
Awesome.
Bore Driver ELDX. Fast and easy to load. The polymer base seals the bore and engages the rifling, while the post and pedals grip the bullet's boat tail. With its superior ballistic coefficients and reduced drag, the Bore Driver ELDX drives its 340-grain bullet to target with the energy and accuracy that turns shots into success. When you have one shot this muzzleloader season, make it count and use the best. Bore Driver ELDX from Hornady.
Well, I'm going to go to some questions now. We got a bunch of them. We kind of picked through some, and I'm going to lump some together because they're similar enough. And the first one that I'm going to lump together, this question was brought up quite a few times, so I'm going to paraphrase all of them and kind of tee this one up, a simple one right out of the gate. But there was a lot of questions about, okay, what makes a custom action better? Why are they more expensive than a complete rifle from most manufacturers? And then there was a couple questions specifically about what makes your actions better. We could lump all those in together, kind of broad level. what separates, a custom action, that costs over $1,000 versus a whole rifle that costs $1,000? And then what makes the Zermatt tool actions? What makes Zermatt arms? What defines your actions and separates them from others?
Yeah, off the jump, why they cost what they cost. We start with a billet chunk of steel and machine it properly from step one. There's nothing cut along the way. We're not looking at high volume, wide ranges of tolerances.
Yeah. Your tolerances are
we deploy
zero.
Aerospace level manufacturing in the production of the component, and that's happening everywhere that's making custom actions. We're not doing anything super special from the machining standpoint that other companies aren't, but we're all priced about the same along the way. And it does start with how they're made. Starting this TL3 right here on the table starts out of a 9-pound piece of 2-inch 416 stainless steel and gets whittled down over the course of 5 or 6 weeks into a tube that it can be sent out for broaching. Then it gets heat treated, comes back in-house, and the rest of the machining process goes from there. So there's a lot of steps to make one part of the puzzle come together and make it at a really high level.
Yep.
Cost comes into play.
It's got to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean it's perfect is what we're shooting for every single time. There's a range, and there are some outliers along the way when you make thousands of something over the course of time.
Sure.
But these do hold up to be very, very, very precise, and they're all going to be, the prefit ability, the capabilities that these have, that really made them popular. Keeping those tolerance ranges tight was something to move on to that. But as far as differentiators, I'm never going to stand on a podium or in anywhere and say we're best or better. Everybody's got a subjective set of criteria.
Well, the current topical phrase that we're using on this podcast is we're all experts in our own opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
sure. Go ahead.
So our feature set is different than that of most out there. With the TL3, that brought in from the TL2, it brought in the differences of controlled feed, mechanical ejection, and a bayonet style firing pin. That was added to the already existing floating bolt head, similar to like a Savage out of the box, comparably to a Remington that's a single piece fixed bolt. If you go back in time and you talk to some of the old guys that were before custom actions shooting Remington 700s and Savage 110s, there was 2 systems and you could take them both out of the box, and there was an inherent accuracy advantage out of one of those 2 systems. And it almost always lent to the Savage side of things. That's all to do with the floating bolt head, in our opinion. I mean, it's a very, very important factor to it. But as far as making our product different, that's the main thing, that floating bolt head, controlled feed, mechanical ejection, and putting that bayonet style firing pin into it. So the bolt is really what makes it unique. The receiver itself, everybody's making a Remington 700 footprint. The reason behind that is the components, from stocks to triggers to bottom metals, magazines, everything under the sun has been adopted from Remington at that level.
Right.
So we've taken ideas, that have been deployed from Springfield, Winchester, Remington, Savage, the core group of rifle builders from way back in the day, and put them into something modern, and came up with the TL3, and then the Origin, just separate that recoil lug, and we were able to cut a lot of cost out of our manufacturing process from a much smaller piece of material to start with. The processes are the same. They're made on the same machines. The receivers are made on the same machines by the same machinists with the same tolerances.
Wow.
So we're getting the same level of work in an Origin, and the same quality of a product in an Origin as we are a TL3. You just have some fewer options with an Origin comparably to a TL3.
Yeah. And I'll hit on that with the whole, it's not a bench rest action. It's a I've always kind of looked at it as it's a match grade field action.
I was thinking the word field was in my head, like a field rifle, field action.
Yeah, it's
ultra precise, but use the dang thing.
And the thing is so in order to do that, one of the things people do, the Trim and Remington, you put an oversized bolt in it to tighten up the bolt, because what you're trying to do at that point of ignition is trying to maintain lug contact, right?
Nice square lug abutment.
And that's so the floating bolt head gives a couple big things on that, and that is, obviously we have in lockup, the pin is 90 degrees.
Yep.
So when the action fires, all the clearances that you need in the bolt, so it can run in the dirt and everything, it allows the bolt to float around and maintain that 100% contact on the lug abutments. It also takes any misalignment of barrel and everything, takes any of that out of it, and it allows it to do the exact same every single time. That's all it is trying to do the exact same thing every single time, whether you're reloading or whatever. You want it to do the exact same every time, because that's how you get consistency and accuracy.
Yep.
And then the gas block does the same thing as well with the dirty environment. It maintains in the raceways. So every time you're cycling that bolt, it's wiping and clearing any debris that you could get in between your lugs and your receiver. So the galling issues and some of those other issues, that is negating that, along with separating any small pressure events. You have a blown primer, you don't get that back in your face. But if you have a catastrophic event, it's meant to implode on itself and not come out the back of the receiver.
That's desirable.
yeah, right. We've had a lot of people blow them up, but and then along with the machining accuracy, it's obviously a lot easier to make a bolt head this big and control all of those tolerances and the material that I can make that bolt head out of versus the material I'm making the bolt body out of. I can distinguish those to make a specialized material to handle those stresses differently than the stresses of the rest of the part.
Okay, yeah. Didn't think about that.
There's a lot of little. I mean, it's just a lot of little stuff, and you talk about the accuracy and the machining and of everything. The unforeseen stuff that you don't see is how important the process controls are in the back. Okay, we're going to remove this material in this order. We're going to heat treat, and then we're going to leave material here, there, and then finish it, and then the specific order of operations of all those processes to make the part in the end be as perfect as it can be.
So to summarize that and compare it back to like the factory action question, what you just said was you're organizing your process of material removal to ensure the absolute utmost precision, accuracy, and control versus factory action. They have to remove material too, and they're probably doing it to increase the economical advantage.
Right. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
The careful, considerate thoughts on every single step. And we're going to talk more about prefits here in a couple questions, but it's all going to come back to those critical tolerances that you guys hold, that you guys monitor on every single one of your actions that makes, and not just you guys, there's a lot of people in the industry doing it. You're holding a tolerance that is incredibly tight when you compare it to a factory action.
Yeah,
right.
And that opens up a lot of benefits. Before we get there, though, more of a philosophical question.
Oh, boy.
Not super it's not that deep, but it was brought up so many times that I do want to bring it up to you guys. It's not something currently in your lineup. There was a lot of questions about this, though, comparing and contrasting what you guys do with a 2-lug to a 60 or 75 degree bolt throw 3-lug action. Is there any strength advantages? Is there anything other than simply the bolt throw, the feeding, et cetera, et cetera? There was a lot of questions about the 60 and 70 degree bolt throw. And then Jay Bliss Precision, he said, would love to see an Origin with a 60 or 70 degree bolt throw. Just kidding. For real, though, when will the left-handed arc bolt heads be available so I can start my 6 arc build?
Hey, they're in stock right now on the website, zermattarms.com.
Yeah,
Go
check them out, Jay Bliss.
That's been a struggle going back and forth. So the there are advantages and disadvantages to both, right?
To everything.
To everything,
Right.
right? And it's you just kind of have to weigh and contrast, and you just know that we are not an action for everybody, right?
Yeah.
What I would like to do a 75. I have it up here. I've wanted to play with it. It's just been okay. What is we're a small company still.
Yeah.
I think people really forget about how small we are and what we really do, and how many. It takes a lot of time to do things like that and maintain. When we're 16 weeks out on product, like it's really hard to take a machine to make prototype stuff because
we live that life here. You think, big Hornady making bullets? You know how hard it is to get into a press to make an R&D bullet that you think might kind of work?
Yeah.
Not happening. It's hard.
And it's
him and I go back and forth.
Oh man. And it's one of those things where it's like the worst part is it's like, oh yeah, I need a machine for 2-3 days. And it's one of those things where like he goes out there and I make a part and then I'm fiddling with that part and he's walking by, the machine's just sitting there and it's just sitting there. It's just that he's got better about it, but in the beginning
he feels like
he's like
Jeopardy music playing.
Like, what do you? Yeah. It's like we need to make parts, and I'm like, yes. But while I'm set up, if I need to make any changes, I need to do that now. I got off tangent there. But
are there any strength factors? Is there anything that you can say?
So surface area of lug. I mean, again, so in a 3 lug, it's all about lug contact, and and wanting to ensure you have 100% contact. So you're adding a lug. There's a little bit more there. It's all the same surface. It's only when you get into multiple lugs. What was that? The Remington 788.
Yeah,
it had a whole section of lugs in it. And you look at that, and they were rear lugs too, and you're like, there's no way that more than 2 of those are making contact,
or like half of some.
Yeah, right. So you get into that a little bit. Manufacturability, and then the other side of it is the Remington 700 footprint. There's that we talked about the compatibility, getting that to fit. Running into just the simple of going up for a Lapua action, going up to a 750 bolt and going, where the hell? I don't have enough room for my trigger pins, and now I'm gonna have to do this, and it's like, I can cheat this.
Complete redesign. It's not like, we have this, we'll just put 3 lugs on it.
Just send a bigger drill down it, right? I mean, come on. So I'm not gonna say they're better or worse. The negatives of 90, you have a nice lighter bolt lift, but you don't have the scope clearance. So
you're doing the same amount of work, but you got more room to do it in. So it just feels smooth.
I mean, Tate did it right. Keeping a 2 lug and going to a 75 degree, that's kind of the route I want to go as well.
Okay.
I saw that and I was like, damn it, you need to do that. But
it's a good action.
Great minds think alike, I think. I have a lot of respect for the guy. They've done a lot of great stuff. And we both make great actions, but they're completely different actions.
Yep. And I don't know, I'm not a machinist. I don't know the intricacy of all kinds of stuff, but like I've never been, I wish this was a 3 lug, or I wish this was, shorter bolt throw. It's never really been a problem to me or even a concern. None of my custom actions have a 3 lug. I have some rifles that are factory guns that, that have a little bit shorter bolt throw, and it's fine.
But you're giving up the lift. The bolt lift. You're gonna because you still have to cock a 24-pound spring. You still have to cock that at least 200 to 250,000. So you still have the same amount of energy that you're
the work that has to be done.
You're doing the same amount of work, but now in a shorter area,
a shorter space, right?
Yeah.
So you have to figure out an elegant way to do it, because I would rather have a longer stroke that I can do with one finger than to break position more to actually have to
move the whole rifle over.
Move the whole rifle, and there are guys that have done it. I mean, the Terminus that lost me. That they're great actions. They're great. They feel good. They feel smooth. The bolt is still just not as light of a lift as but it can't be
right.
Like mechanically, you just there are limitations, and again, packing all of that into the 700 footprint is.
Right.
And making it work with everything that's out there.
It's definitely a desire to get a shorter bolt throw. I mean, we've seen everybody go that route.
Yeah.
It's something that You know, there's
an evolution.
There's enough feedback out there. Ocular lenses are growing, not shrinking. So the clearances are going to have to become greater at some point in time. So,
well, listener out there, if you want to see a shorter bolt throw from Zermatt, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Because these guys will read the comments, I bet.
I'll try not to.
Yeah. So moving to the next question, but staying in the vein of strength. This question came in from John O'Neill, and he said, questions about running irregularly high-pressure cartridges. Obviously, the 7 backcountry, presumably there's going to be more of that style of cartridge released. Will that wear an action prematurely when running at those, what he calls irregularly high pressure, somewhere in the tune of, 80,000 pounds? Is there any concern to the action? From the outside looking in, I would think this thing can handle way more than that. Yeah, but for how long? What's the serviceability of something like that?
Well, so it's and I'm not the engineering guy to really understand this. I would Jaden can go off on me on this.
Jaden on the show. He's doing some really high level stuff. We're gonna go talk to him, and he's gonna look like this when you come.
Yeah.
He's they've got some stuff going on. But anyway, go ahead.
But the difference, pressure isn't the problem, bolt thrust is the problem.
Right.
When it comes to the receiver. So and a lot of things that, the backcountry that I don't fully understand is how they're minimizing the bolt thrust on that high of a pressure. Obviously, when I'm doing a lot of my action testing, my favorite go-to is actually a 300 short mag.
Yeah.
A 300 WSM.
A lot of volume, the biggest case wetted area, and the shortest case, so it has the greatest potential of higher bolt thrust. And honestly, going from a 300 to a 6.5, some 6.5 WSM, something like that, because then you get the bore over pressure, increasing that the
pressure
stress.
dwell is longer.
Right. That's something I learned with the 338 when we were doing that 338 action. It's like I talked to Jaden so many times. I was like, Jaden, why can't I blow this up? I can't blow this up.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, like so frustrating to go out, when I'm going out there and I have compressed loads of Varget behind a 230 and I was like, all right, this is going to do it. And then I shoot 5 rounds of it and I'm like, okay, well.
Did you neck it down to 7?
And that was the next thing, going down to a 300 Norma mag. That helped. But it's just getting the bore over pressure and some of that stuff. But back to it. It will. You are going to. There's only so much tensile strength that the material can handle, and you beat it up just like a firing pin spring. You put 10,000 rounds on a firing pin spring, it's gonna wear out. Like the material is going to fatigue and stress and wear out over time. But the other side of it is like the backcountry. The way I look at it is, I am perfectly fine somebody putting in an action. I know without a doubt it will hold the pressure and it'll be safe. If something completely does go south, it's not going to kill you. That's my biggest goal in an action when I'm designing an action and testing an action. Is like, okay, when
safe
it fails,
and strength,
it's going to something's gonna happen. It will fail.
Sure.
When it does fail, what happens?
Yeah. So barring anything catastrophic, what parts are you looking at that do have a yield point where just the high repetitive amount of stress is
you're going to see it in the receiver, the lug and buttments of the receiver. The receiver is the softest component of everything compared with our bolt head and everything. So really, you're going to see the lugs set into that receiver over time,
like a titanium action used to be known for back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that gets into a whole nother ball of yarn with our titanium actions. Why we took so long to do anything with that. We can thank the suppressor world for our titanium action.
Okay.
Because it wasn't until all the titanium suppressors in the last 5 to 10 years really pushing the envelope of material heat treatments and processing to the titanium. Because that was the thing I always looked at. I was like, I don't want to make a product that costs way more and is an inferior product just to save a couple ounces.
A few ounces.
Like it just did not. I didn't want to do that to the customers. Everybody's always asking for it. It was like, so we found some processes, and I truly believe like our titanium actions will handle match use.
Oh wow!
I'm fully confident in that. They're borderline just because of the elasticity of the material. From a catastrophic event, the titanium receivers are actually marginally stronger than the stainless receivers.
Oh really?
In a catastrophic fatigue failure point before the receiver splits and blows the barrel off the end. That's my goal. And everything, I want the receiver to split and blow the barrel off the end. I want the bolt to basically implode on itself and just stay in the receiver.
Yeah. So you're mainly worried about lug abutments in the receiver. The lugs on the bolt, though, not really a concern.
No.
Okay.
No.
That's good to know. And to take his question a little bit further, more of a statement, we've seen this, you guys have seen this, and we have a pressure and velocity lab. So we've done this many times where you talk to somebody at the range at a match and they're running fill in the blank of fill in the powder in said cartridge. And you're like, man, that's toasty.
Yeah.
So we go and test it, and it's like 74,000 pounds, and that's their match load. That's their standard match load.
Yeah.
So I think
guilty. I run my dasher at 65 all the time. That's where it runs.
Yeah, a lot of these questions about irregular to high pressure. Yes, like the backcountry running at 80,000. I think there's a lot of people that are living between 68 and 72 and have no idea. And the tolerances on a custom action, you don't see that excessive pressure. In a Remington 700 that you rebarreled, you're going to see the cratering, the primer flow, and the ejector stamp and all that stuff. On a custom action, at least in our experience, you see no pressure signs and then no primer. There's no middle ground.
There's no, exactly.
So it's good to know that these were designed.
That's another good point to differentiate between a factory gun and a custom. What you're getting there.
Yeah, if John wants to run that way too hard for a little bit of time and then send me the action, we'll take a look at it and tell him what it looks like.
Good to know. Offers out there, John.
Yeah.
All right.
He knows how to get a hold of me.
Yeah. Up there in South Dakota.
The Hornady Security Fireproof Keypad Safe. With a heavy-duty 16-gauge steel body, extra-thick 8-gauge steel door, and 4 1-inch diameter locking lugs, the fireproof safe achieves a fire rating of 30 minutes for up to 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Both the interior and adjustable shelf are covered in a protective carpet that offers flexible storage configurations while safeguarding valuables from damage. The Fireproof Keypad Safe from Hornady Security.
All right, we're going to change gears now and probably spend a good chunk of time talking about this. I'm going to lay everything out and we'll kind of just piece through it. Number one, a lot of questions came in about pre-fit barrels. How do I know if it's pre-fit compatible? What do I need to do in order to change a barrel? What tools are required? What's the process? And then there are some questions related to that pre-fit and then how that equates to the Origin and what's different about the Origin versus the TL3, and then some aftermarket lug options that people had brought up. Again, this was the overwhelming majority of the questions. So let's talk about what does it mean to be pre-fit compatible, and then we'll go through what tools are required to do it, what you need to tell your barrel maker or where you're ordering the barrel, and then how do you do it at home, and what's the right way to do it.
Right.
So first off, what does it mean to be, that action is pre-fit compatible?
We make a lot of actions, and they're all very well inspected like we've laid out before. The tolerance, the total stack between the receiver, the bolt face, and the bolt body is somewhere in the 7/10.
I like to, our goal is half a thou, 5 10 thousandths. But in all reality, between processing and heat treat and everything, it's about 7/10.
So for the record, that's the fourth decimal place.
Yeah.
That's not 1,000.
So human hair divided by 30 and change. Yeah. And it really just comes down to two main dimensions, and that is from your bolt face to the back of your bolt lugs, and then opposite on the action from the front of your action down to the bolt lugs. So basically the stack of those two dimensions, when they come together, they have to basically come out to the same dimension. And we go above and beyond, obviously, in my opinion, with the action, because we're holding that half a thou as best as we can. But in the cartridge world, four thou, I mean, go no gauges is 4 thou, and even then with reloading and factory ammo and everything, you can be safe fudging that another thou in each direction.
Yeah.
So
well, in the SAMI prints, it shows you max cartridge, min chamber, and if you look at allowable headspace, there's a lot.
So if we minimize that dimension and keep that range as small as humanly possible, it opens the door for your barrel maker and your ammunition provider to be a little bit more relaxed on their standards, because they're making a consumable product and they're making
everywhere
way more of them than we are as an action maker.
And beyond that, there's even one more facet out there that a lot of gunsmiths out there are going to go like, yes, amen, is manufacturers of reamers and headspace gauges. They are still a manufacturer of a part that part has a tolerance. Yes, it's a headspace gauge, and they have a very short tolerance, and they're grinding everything, but they also have a tolerance, and reamers have a tolerance. So when you look into not only the cartridge tolerance, okay, now all of the tooling to make that stuff also has tolerance, and you get into a big stacking range. That's why, like I said, we do the best we can. I really think, we were talking about it on the way out here how much I wanted to talk about this, and I'm not going to say we pioneered that. We didn't. There was it was around, but
you popularized.
We mainstreamed it. I really think we pushed it. We worked with a lot of gunsmiths in the beginning, going, hey, trust me, Josh Coons, Patriot Valley Arms, he was measuring every single action, in the first, several hundred actions that he got. And he's like,
why am I doing
this? He showed me, he made a list, every serial number and every dimension on everything. And he's like, yeah, I just stopped it because it was a waste of time.
Yep.
And, getting more gunsmiths to trust that, hey, trust us. And you know what? If it's wrong, we'll stand behind it. And that's another thing that we very much so stand behind our product. If it's wrong, we'll take care of it. And then onboarding with Proof.
Yeah,
Proof is
that
really
was a huge one. We didn't popularize it by ourselves. It was definitely mainly around Proof. I can remember a conversation at SHOT Show. I think it was 2018. They had come in and they had started building their switch rifle using our TL3.
Yep.
They made their own unique style barrel nut, and some of KK and at the time Larry, they came down and they looked at the rifle on the wall and they said, well, how can we sell more of those? And I was the only one there at the time. I was pretty low level still. I pointed right at that barrel nut and I said, throw that thing away and make shoulder barrels.
Yeah.
And they asked me, are you guys will stand behind that? Absolutely. And Greg Hamilton, he was measuring, doing the same thing Josh was doing, measuring them all. And he's like, there is no reason for us to believe that what they're saying is not true.
Yep.
We can see that everything's good. So Proof came on and really expanded their line of barrels to add the shouldered prefits, and that helped trigger a whole bunch of different companies to come on board with it. I believe almost every custom action manufacturer that's popularized in the market right now, there's an option at Proof Research to buy a shoulder prefit barrel for them.
Yep.
If there's not, you should be a little bit leery about the product that you're getting.
Sure.
Because I do believe Proof does an immaculate job of vetting what they're putting out there and making sure that they're not setting themselves, or more importantly, their consumer up for a catastrophic event.
And it changed the game I'm trying to think of a word that it isn't just like a generic word, but it was revolutionary. And for the listener that's not familiar, prefit barrels, you get an action that has a guaranteed headspace dimension. That means your barrel maker can thread and chamber your barrel without your action being present. And that was the big thing, because normally you had to send your action to the gunsmith. They would take all the measurements, they would cut the threads, then they would cut the chamber, and they would mate it perfectly. And that's an art form, and it's still really great.
Yeah.
However,
but that
you
took
don't have
2
to do
years.
it.
That would take 2 years. You go into a high-level gunsmith that's been doing it for a long time, like they have a backlog, so you wait, back those days, it was nothing to wait a year for a custom action. There weren't as many of them that time. there's a lot more choices now, but you wait a year for that. Oh, and you hopefully have all the other pieces together. And now you go shoot that rifle for a year, and it's like there were guys that had 2 and 3 actions back in those times because they always had an action at the gunsmith being fit.
Right.
Now that you completely taken that out. You know, we were talking, I know guys that buy 4 or 5 pre-fit barrels, and they go out and they break in. They break in every single barrel, you know, put 200-300 rounds on everything, get it all broke in, and then it's like, oh, well, this one's starting to do something funky or slow down a little bit. I don't like it. Yank it, put the other one on it. Their ammo, they're off to the races.
Yep, it really did revolutionize things. Again, that term coined for a lot of reasons, but it sounds generic, but it's not. It was revolutionary. And I remember being at a match. It was in Colorado. It was one of the last matches I ran before I had my second kid and really had to hang it up as far as the match shooting goes. Anyway, a guy in the squad in front of us had a Bighorn at the time, and we, just match banter. You're talking with people, whatever, and he just, casually mentioned like, oh, I've got a different barrel. I think he might have been from PVA. Got a different barrel. I'm going to spin that one on after this match. This is the last match on this barrel. And I was like, spin another barrel. I'm like, we talked about it, and it just was like, oh my goodness. I know I'd heard about it, but I never investigated it. And he just laid it out, plain and simple. He's like, oh yeah, they just thread and chamber it, thread the muzzle, and then I just have the same cartridge. Yeah. And I just keep swapping barrels every 2,000 rounds.
Yeah.
It's like, that is amazing. Now, real quick, I want to talk about the barrel nut that you brought up, Ray. There are some installation disadvantages to the barrel nut, just because there's other things you have to do. You're forced to have a go and no-go gauge. Usually you have to take your scope off. It's just kind of inconvenient. Outside of the inconvenience of using a barrel nut, is there a question about strength or anything about that, since there's less meat there on the chamber end of that barrel? No. It's just the inconvenience.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten that question a lot. Like, is there an inherent accuracy advantage to a shouldered versus a barrel nut barrel? And I can't say yes. I have to say no, there's not, because we've seen users purchase things from Northland Shooter Supply and run a Sheelan Savage small shank barrel with either Northland's nut, our nut, Sheelan, whoever's, put it on, and they'll go shoot NRA records.
You guys know Matt Ritchie?
I don't.
Oh, here he's our donations guy, sponsorship guy, and he's also our shooting sports manager. Old Big and Richie, he's got a 6.5 284 barrel. Yeah. I think the cheapest barrel that Preston could buy. He traded Preston, I think, some electric fencing equipment for it, and that 6.5 284 pounds knot holes. Yeah. And it's I have it. It's on. Yeah, it's a barrel nut, whatever.
The beauty of the Savage small shank threaded tenon that we have is the wide availability of those barrels. Criterion, Sheelan, and there's a billion other options out there. But the caliber selection in Savage small shank prefits with a barrel nut grows exponentially to the shouldered prefit. And that's, in my opinion, purely SKU driven from the manufacturers that are making shoulder prefits.
Sure.
Hey, what are my common ones? I've got 308. I've got 6.5 Creed. Very simple stuff, Dasher, the GT. There are things, the people that are consuming barrels at a high frequency, and the ARC cartridges now, adding all of those to it, there's just a reason that those are smaller, because they're higher usage, they're higher consumability. And it's just simple dollars and cents to make fewer shoulder prefits and the Savage small shanks.
You can go anywhere.
Yeah, you put a hole in it, and then you ream it to whatever it needs to be and move on from there. Yeah. But there's no downside to a barrel nut.
Just the inconvenience.
Other than that assembly process. Yep. And if you're sound doing the assembly process, there's
no problem.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the assembly process. So you've got a nice Zermatt action. You've got your Proof Research or your whatever, PVA, all those companies. I mean, there are a plethora of companies out there that'll cut you a prefit. Now, you get your prefit barrel. What do you got to do to really put this thing together and ensure it's ready to roll?
There's really only
lube is your friend.
Yeah, there's only a handful of tools that you really need. A solid barrel vise. Start there. An action wrench. We do make I know they're out of stock. They've been out of stock for a long time, but we do make them. We'll continue to make more of them. But an action wrench, a torque wrench, and headspace gauges. I know some people, shoulder prefit, why do I need a headspace gauge? Yeah. It's the cheapest insurance policy when you put your face down next to 60,000 pounds of pressure to know that it's going to be safe.
Right.
So just always check it with a headspace gauge. But yeah, a little bit of anti-seize on the threads. Always use anti-seize, copper or nickel based. Throw that around the outside of the barrel threads.
Yeah. And you're going to also want to get that all over your hands and probably your face and all over your clothes.
Just by touching the bottle, you're going to end up with it somewhere that you didn't know.
I actually looked at the bottle one time, covered head to toe.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
So, anti-seize on your threads.
The other side of that is like not just the step, probably the most missed step that people do is it's not just the threads, it's all of the mating surfaces. Yeah. So you want it on the threads and the faces.
Okay.
We got a lot of people, if the pinned recoil lug, they'll twist off the pin and separate because they'll stick together. So that recoil lug, it's all of those is a stack of the mating surfaces. So the shoulder of the barrel, the face of the recoil lug, the back face of the recoil lug, and the threads. Everything needs to have lube on it. So as you're cranking it down, 60, 80 foot-pounds, that they move.
Yeah. Yeah, TL3s, there's going to be a higher likelihood of that anti-seize getting on there naturally. With an origin, you definitely want to intentionally put a little bit around the bore of the recoil lug, just to ensure that you have something there.
Yep.
Just don't hold on to it way up close to the top, but yeah, it's simple enough. You get that anti-seize on there, you thread it down on a shoulder barrel to the point where it's hand tight. You put your barrel in the barrel vise. If it's not already there, throw your action wrench in there and use a Harbor Freight torque wrench or whatever torque wrench you have the availability of and make that happen. Torque specs.
I was about to bring that up now.
Overrated.
Yes.
Milwaukee Impact, take it down to 3 Ugga-Duggas.
No,
hand tight.
You're crazy if you go to that level. But
what's required, and is there a benefit, or is it just nice to have a standard? I torque my barrels to 50 pounds every time.
That far and away is the best practice to use. Just pick a torque value that you like to go with and use the same tools every time. I think a lot of time has been spent discussing whether or not torque is super important. I have not found it to be of any real unique importance. There might be guys out there that are chasing something to the nth degree of accuracy where, 10, 15 pounds might make the difference. But for the bulk of shooters, people putting everything together, target 75 foot-pounds and you'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
How much can you guarantee me that torque wrench that you've got has been stored properly its whole life? When was it calibrated the last time? So you really don't have a clue what you're putting it to. It could say 75. You might be putting 50. You might be putting 85, 90 on it. You really
it's
don't
just something,
know.
And you do the same thing every time.
If you do the same thing over and over again with your tools, you'll be totally fine.
Okay. Consistent.
Yep, consistent, and it doesn't need the Ugga-Dugga. I mean, tight is tight. If it doesn't come off, it doesn't come off.
Yeah. What if it does come off?
You'll know before it's a really big problem because it will stop going bang quickly.
Oh, yeah. Headspace.
It's just going to grow to a point where it won't ignite.
You'll see it in your groups first.
Oddly enough, this doesn't make me look very good, but I'll share the story anyway. I was at a PRS match in Utah, the Hornady PRC, running a 6-arc, Proof Research chambered barrel, one of their prefits, on this action actually. And Tom Beckstrand was there with me, and I picked up my gun that weighed 19 pounds by the barrel, and just the weight of the gun swung the barrel loose. And I realized, I was shooting a different barrel on this, and then I just threaded this on hand tight. Cool. So Tom looked at me, and he's like, that's not going to help things. Well, we'll see. So I put the gun between my legs, gave her the old hip, and then went and cleaned the stage.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess it's not a problem.
No.
Yeah.
So that I just wanted to bring that up. One, don't do that. Two, you talked about all those precision reference measurements that you make on that action, and then how well the machining was done on that barrel, and hand tight, that thing snugged right up, and shot the match of my life, that particular match.
Wonderful.
So there are countless bench stress shooters that take their barrel on and off during a match, like in between.
Those
whatever.
guys don't know accuracy,
right? And it's like one of those, I've seen a guy screws his barrel on, and goes, all right, let's shoot it. Because I mean, a group, you shift your zero and you shoot. You're shooting groups. You're not shooting. It's not witchcraft. It's nothing.
Yeah, putting a precision rifle together today with the quality of components that are out there is very a straightforward process.
What's remarkable is, this was kind of a neat thing for me as an employee of Hornady. I was commissioned to assemble products to build a rifle. And so I ordered all these components in with the help of Nick Erickson, who's been on the show quite a bit. Mm-hmm. We ordered all these components in, and it to say it was very lackluster would be an understatement, because like all the components came in and the trigger pins went in, didn't even have to like tap them in. They were just snug. We put a punch on them and then just pushed them through. Okay. Triggers in on the action, put the barrel in a barrel vise, threaded that in, put 25 foot-pounds on it, put in a no-go gauge. Okay, we're good to go. Bottom metal into the stock, put everything together, made sure it wasn't bound or nothing, and it was just dead nuts, and put 60-inch pounds on the action screws, and then put a scope on it. It was like, well, that was like the culmination of what would have been 10 years ago. Oh, custom barrel, custom action, custom bottom metal, custom stock, scope. That rifle went together in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it is a legitimate, does not get any better than that custom hunting rifle.
Right. I mean, you're gonna come across components if you don't do good research and you don't vet who you're buying things from.
Yeah, of
along
course.
the way, there are bad products out there, but there are also companies, not just us, but you ask companies that produce any of these components what they would do along the way. Nobody's going to tell you to go up and go down the road and figure that out on your own.
Yeah,
everybody's they're going to be like, hey, I know that these components go well together. This is what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take their advice, word for word, but it sure will help you. But
it's like
successful.
Allstate. They know a thing or two because they've seen a thing or two.
There's no better time to stock your reloading bench and light up your range. With Hornady Get Loaded Plus. New this year, free bullets or free cases when you buy these select Hornady reloading tools. Plus, receive the free HIT target impact indicator. Hornady Get Loaded Plus. Free bullets, free cases, free HIT target impact indicator. Get loaded and light it up with Hornady Get Loaded Plus. Limitations apply. Visit Hornady.com/getloaded2025 for further details.
So let's shift gears now to the Origin. We spent a lot of time talking about the TL3, the integrated recoil lug. The Origin, like you said, shave that recoil lug off, bring the cost down. Still incredibly precise. What's different about that thread tenon and that recoil lug and what that looks like for setting up a prefit?
It's different than the TL3 and SR3 short and medium actions.
Okay.
The reason being was with the TL3, the AW magazine well.
Yeah.
The AW magazine well yielded the need to push the lug abutment forward to not have any not have the risk of lug set as bad, if I'm saying that.
Right. You're going into that strength, that AW, just because it's a double stack, double feed, it needed a much wider, deeper feed ramp to feed properly. And what you did is, in that the where the barrel sits or the lug sit, the depth of how much material you have behind that. Mm-hmm. And then also you have thread engagement as well with the integral recoil lug. Now that extra 1/4 inch material, it's receiver material. There's threads there. I'm getting strength out of that. Mm-hmm. With the non-integrated Origin, I need, you want to maintain your thread engagement as, 1 time diameter is, if you can, minimum. Okay. 1.5 is the standard, but and then comes into play with, again, fitting it into that Remington 700 footprint. The lugs are where they're at. The recoil lug is where it's at. The screws are where they're at, and the magazine is where it's at. So
and those you don't move those around.
You don't move those around.
That'd be the worst the worst thing you could have done.
The big one is that front action screw, and on a TL3, a short action, the back edge of that action screw is really, really close to the lug abutment.
Mm-hmm.
So in manufacturing processes, deburring, you're running a much higher risk of making contact with it with a deburring tool or something else along the way. So the Origin got that set back the extra 100,000ths to keep everything nice and easy for us to use in process deburring, allowed different tools to be done.
Okay.
And then it's the same as our TL3 SR3 long action tenon as well.
Okay.
It just got a 180 degree thread start difference.
All right.
And this is where I will fully admit I screwed up. I should have looked at that deeper, that was with the Prefit barrels and go, okay, I could have, I was so stuck on, well, everybody wants a 1/4-inch recoil lug. I got to have a 1/4-inch recoil lug. Okay, and I got to have this and I got to have this. I could have cheated some of those dimensions around to make them work. That being said, once you get down that and you get down manufacturers making stuff for it, it's like I don't want to be
over the apple.
I don't want to be the manufacturer that screws somebody else. Like that's just that's I've had it happen on our end. It's not fun. I don't like it, so I don't want to do it to somebody else.
Fair enough.
You're being too hard on yourself. At the time, the Prefit barrels really weren't.
And it's hard to see the future.
About. Yeah, I mean it was a good move to ensure that there was absolutely enough strength in the receiver to do it. You saw a reason along the way to make that happen. But so as we move forward, by all means, everything will be as consistent to one specific thread's tenon spec as we can get to.
So a question comes up then that this one was brought in a bunch as well. So you went with the 1/4-inch recoil lug. There's several companies out there, one prominent one that makes a much shorter recoil lug, 150 thou lug, that makes that Origin headspace the same as the TL3. Do you see any inherent problems with that thin of a recoil lug?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, you think of original factory 700s where 3/16 is 188, where they're right down there. And that's honestly the path I should have gone. I really should have done about 200. Anyways, digress. But no, I mean,
you're beating yourself up.
Yeah. In all reality, no, as long as everything is put together properly, it does, bedding on a rifle or stuff like that. But in all reality, recoil lugs, this was a little older actually before we changed the lug a little bit. That lug is way bigger than it needs to be as far as length and even girth and everything. It is just it's the amount of linear force that's happening in recoil. There are far more things that you're going to have issues with before. I mean, there's not a stock out there, even an aluminum chassis or anything, that's not going to fail before recoil lug, even being 150,000.
Yeah, I mean, out of every action that's out there, I have no idea how many of those recoil lugs have been sold, but I can imagine it's
a lot.
It's a 4-digit number at least, I would think.
Yeah.
And we've never taken one instance, one phone call, one customer complaint that we could boil down to that being the root cause of a root cause of a problem.
Secondhand, I had a customer, hey, I got this Prefit that's not fit, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on?
Different
and here
lug.
they ordered they got an Origin secondhand from somebody, and they ordered a barrel for an Origin. Well, the original owner of that had swapped out and put a 150 lug on it.
Yep.
So they put it together, and they're like, hey, this thing isn't going together. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, measure this. What is this measurement? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's an easy fix.
That's what it is. Set up a recoil lug. And
you pin that lug, so as far as assembly goes, it's really no extra steps. It's just when you're threading that barrel on initially, when you get close, just make sure your lug is seated properly.
It can be a small amount of a nuisance, but you're talking about 10 to 15 seconds of difference
when you're swapping a barrel.
Yeah, comparing it to a fixed lug like a TL3.
The only circumstance where it would be negatively affected you if you have an action that is perfectly bedded into a stock. Say that recoil lug is just, depending on the tolerance on the tenon of the barrel, if they cut a shoulder on the tenon for that lug to locate on, if that lug floats just a little bit and it wasn't bedded properly with the proper side clearance or something like that, and now, okay, I've swapped out barrels, and now it's not fitting. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
But
for by and large, if you're doing that level of, you're bedding your whole action, you're bedding your lug, you're probably not swapping barrels all the time.
Not very many guys that are doing that
anymore. Yeah. I sure used to. I used to, gosh, between me and Preston, we bedded everything. It was insane.
Yeah.
And once we fully got invested in custom actions, stopped doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still a lot of guys that'll bed chassis though, just because it's their practice. That's what they do, and no matter what.
And we went as far on the Matterhorn there's a bedding dam on the recoil lug. Like, I don't need to do it, but okay, I'm gonna make it so somebody doesn't have to go dremeling on their brand new chassis because they want to bed it. So I put some undercuts in it and some locking so they could actually skim bed it around the around the action screws. It's like, you don't need to.
Yeah.
But if it makes you feel better,
go ahead and do it.
I haven't seen anybody take one out of the box, put targets on paper or rounds on paper, and then bed it, and then show me any difference. I haven't seen any accuracy.
Well, again, it looks at what is your definition of accuracy. Are you looking for if it's more than a clover leaf, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Again,
versus
it's a match grade field action. It's what are you using this thing for?
Everything. That's what I'm using it for. I use it literally for everything. Yeah. Guys, is there anything about Zermatt as a whole, or any specific products that we didn't touch on that you want? Because I'm going to kind of wrap this thing up. I got 2 more questions for you guys, but anything in regard to Zermatt?
Loosely talked about the Lapua that we've got working through.
Big.
It's coming along. It's another one of those. It fits in the same category as the action wrenches and why we're out of stock of those.
Yeah.
Some manufacturing delays and the availability of some machines along the way that have held that project up a little bit. But we have the receiver material in-house. That product coming online, that's going to be a really nice addition. So we'll be able to say that we can go from 22 long rifle to your 338 Lapua.
And the 300 Norma. Which has a very niche group, but that group spends money.
Right, exactly.
And,
So there's a wide range that we can tackle within the custom action side of things.
Nice.
We have an option for almost everybody out there. If you can't find it from us, we'll be happy to point you in the direction of somebody that can provide it for you. But that Lapua coming on board, it's got a really exciting new extraction system. That's we're going to test it at the high level with the super high pressure, big bore stuff.
Of course.
Let guys go through it. It's been tested. It's been vetted. It's a really, really strong design, but that design will eventually be rolled down into a redesign of the TL3 whenever there's time available for Aaron to do that.
Maybe
project.
2028.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. By the time my kids are graduating high school, we might have something.
No, I'm very, very excited about that. That extractor that's in that Lapua action. That's been one of the biggest hangups. Going up to a Lapua, I knew that current extractor just was not going. It's borderline on magnums. It's fine if you don't abuse it. That is probably the biggest weakest link in our action is abuse of an extractor, overpressuring, not sizing properly, just yanking on the extractor.
You'll know if you have a problem with that if your ejection gets super anemic. If it gets extremely weak.
That's what I love about that mechanical ejector. At a match, I'm usually running that bolt way harder than I need to.
Yeah.
And it's like all my brass ends up in a nice little pile, like 18 feet on the next stage.
But the extractor isn't failing at a level that it's leaving people in a situation where with a stuck case in the center fire stuff at all by any stretch.
Yeah, it's not a problem, but in the grand scheme of things, it could be better. It is the one thing I wanted to improve on the most. I cannot take full credit for the design of it because I took it from, in my opinion, one of the most battlefield tested rifles out there. It's an M1A, M1 Grand style claw extractor. So that being said, currently our extractor is a sliding extractor. It slides in a track. It's got direct perpendicular movement. The claw inside of that floating bolt head is very small and petite, but the fulcrum point is inboard from the pressure point. So the harder that extractor is being pulled against, the harder it bites against
against
the case.
Yeah.
So, and when you get into the bigger bore stuff, bigger bore, longer cases, more of that surface area inside the chamber, the extraction becomes more and more critical.
Right.
So I'm very excited to get those products, more of them out there. We obviously have several of them out there being tested and shot and here and there, but it's exciting to, like, the next stage. Like it's always like,
what's next? What's around the corner?
Right.
That's about innovation, and you guys certainly do innovate, and been one of the more popular actions here locally. Obviously, it's the hometown team, so we're going to go down into the lab here after this. You're going to see a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you've been there, you've seen it, and we really appreciate the support and the partnership with you guys.
Absolutely.
Now on to the more important questions.
oh boy, there's important stuff.
Yes, we ask this to everybody that's been on the show for the first time, and this is the first time on the show, so we have to ask, if you had to pick in a hypothetical world that you could have a million guns, 2 million guns, a bazillion guns, and you could be in any configuration of barrel length, automatic, semi-automatic, bolt gun, what you name it, but they all have to be chambered for the same cartridge to do all the rest of your shooting and hunting and whatever you like to do. What would you pick? And if you have a Hornady bullet to go with it, that's a bonus. You don't have to pick a bullet. But if you had to pick one cartridge for the rest of your life,
you don't have to worry about me picking a Hornady bullet. It's factory ammunition or bust for me.
Okay, fair enough.
That's just the way it works. Oh man.
So are we talking theoretical
For
like
everything. For
prepping,
everything,
like into the world
everything.
prepping stuff,
So
or
it depends
just
on what kind of rabbit hole you want to go in. It's your hypothetical.
Oh.
Say Preston, great example. He's a hunter. He used to be a competitor. He'll compete every now and then. Personal defense, plinking, likes to varmint hunt, occasional elk hunt. He picked daggone 308 Winchester with a 178 grain ELDX. 6.5 Creedmoor, really popular, especially for a lot of our match heavy shooters. Still want to hunt, still want to shoot matches. I picked 7 PRC because there's Africa and Alaska and stuff like that. John Barry, sponsored shooter, he shot a 7 PRC for PRS.
yeah.
It was ridiculous, and he's really good anyway.
Mhm.
But he kicked my butt, which doesn't take much. But so I went with 7 PRC. There's been a 30-06, 9mm, 6 ARC has been a popular one. There's been a lot of popular answers. You just have to go through what makes sense to you. If it's any consolation, Jaden Quinlan chose 6 ARC. So
Interesting.
let that be a lesson to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what Jay Quinlan picked.
That's tough.
All right.
See, I'm going to be a Hornady fanboy on this one. I'm going to go 6.5 PRC
Okay.
with a 135 A-tip
My man.
because that is awesome for match shooting, and there's in the right range. There's nothing in North America that's going to get away from it.
Yeah, you wouldn't think so. Yeah.
I mean, if I had to just stick with a bullet,
But 6.5 PRC is a really utilitarian answer. You can do a
It
lot.
is. Yeah,
Big
it
game
is.
hunting. You can still shoot matches with it. It's not going to be crazy. Whatever bullet you picked, you could just download it. Nobody said it has to be same velocity.
Yeah, I think in that vein,
as long as I have unlimited barrels, that's going to be a
That's going to be a
kicker.
thing. Well, it's part of it. Yeah.
I think I'm with Preston. That 308, just having the knockdown power, but still being small enough to hunt in short distances. That I think the 308's just so versatile.
It is.
Over the course of time, it's stood up.
Yeah,
It's only been 70 years.
I mean, it's a great cartridge.
It really is.
It's the base of how many different,
Oh, yeah.
wildcats and spinoffs and different variants of all these cartridges started with one case head.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. The 308 and the 6.5 PRC. Great answers. Now, I thought of this because I read it. I didn't think of anything. Actually, I just read it. And we talked about this right before we started recording, that this action needed a little lube. Real quick, what are some cleaning and lube points on your action that you would recommend?
Yeah, taking down the bolt is the most important thing. When you're cleaning everything up, just wipe it wipe it down. Don't add any lubrication to your firing pin spring. You're going to slow it down.
Thank you.
You're going to slow it down. You're going to create more problems. We had a guy at work. He was getting ready for a match, I think, with a 6.5 PRC. Cleaned everything off. It was working perfectly. And then all of a sudden it wasn't working. And he asked him, he goes, what did you do to clean it? And he goes, I added a little bit of lubricant to that. He dropped it in the ultrasonic, cleaned everything out, acetone, washed it, put it back together, and it went back to shooting.
Yeah.
Don't put lubrication on your firing pin springs. It's not a good idea.
Yep.
Adding grease to the stem of the shroud, I think that's about as important in terms of the bolt feel and manipulation to it.
Yep.
The cocking piece and ramp. Yeah, but it'll kind of all lube itself.
Yeah,
when
once
you put it
if
together.
You get it around the stem of the shroud, whatever you have left over on your hand, just wipe in that cocking ramp and it'll be good. Best way to apply lubrication to your lug abutment is going to be right through the face of the receiver. So when your barrel's off, just dab a little bit of high temp grease. We're using it's Slip 2000 now
Slip
that
2000,
we're using.
Yeah,
Every
EWL.
action is going out the door with a little packet of that.
Yep.
You cut the tip off of that, put it on there. Shooter's Choice all-weather grease, another great option for you there. Clean receiver and whatever light oil that you want to run on your bolt body, to be honest. Whatever your personal preference is.
The
gonna
other
be
thing,
great.
if you're wanting to do it, if you don't have your barrel off, if you're not taking your barrel off and you clean everything, wipe everything down, the other thing you can do is put a little dab on the back of your lug and then just rotate it. Gas block a little bit, and then
it's going to get some.
It's going to get some. It's going to get as much as it needs.
Yeah.
It doesn't need a lot. You don't want to attract a bunch of dirt and gunk and crap in there.
And those are both points that we grease at the assembly process. So don't clean your receiver when you get it. Don't rip it all the way off, because we've intentionally put things in places that they need to be there.
Awesome. Simple stuff, basic maintenance, and you will know if you don't get grease on the cocking ramp and on that stem. You'll know about it.
You're going to feel it.
You can feel it. Like it operates hard. And I told you guys, I just stripped this one down bare, and it's been sitting in my safe for a couple of months, waiting for my next project. So with that.
On that, I would say just a couple little things to touch on assembly. One of our biggest issues we run into assembly is we do not Loctite the rails on. We don't put all the screws in the rail side. Countless customers, we put one screw in the back of this rail when we ship the action. And we've had customers come that have shot a year's worth of matches, and then they get down to the end of the year and they're like, my POI is shifting all over the place, and they pull their scope off and they only had one rail screw in it.
Yeah.
So do put your screws in the right spot. They're short and long. That's another one. And then the other common one with all the different chassis and different screws and everything, make sure when you put it together, the front action, obviously if the rear action screw is too long, the action's not going to run. You're not going to be able to put the bolt in. But the front one can be just a touch long, and you'll see a little wear spot or rub mark right on your bolt here, and that will take accuracy to kaputs.
New heights.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, we talked about how easy it is to build one, to put it to put it all together. But there's a couple little things that if you don't know to look for them, you overlook it, you miss it, and then you're like, man, why does I spend all this money and this thing doesn't shoot worth a crap?
Yeah,
and it's like, well, it's there's a couple little things.
Yeah, there's nuance to it, just like anything.
If you've got great components from great manufacturers, it'll go together as easy as pie.
I've used this analogy countless times on this podcast, but it's crazy. You buy parts from a race car shop and you put them together, you end up with a race car. Same thing with these rifles. You buy a Zermatt action, you buy a proof barrel, you get the stock, you get the scope, you bolt it together. It takes 10 minutes to build it. Well, it better perform. Right. It better shoot, because you built a race car with race car parts. It's going to shoot like one.
Again, it's race car with race car parts. I won't mention customer names, but when somebody takes a TL3 and they put a takeoff 308 Savage barrel on it, and they didn't have gauges, and they put it together and they go, this thing is a piece, it's not shooting.
So takeoff Remington trigger too.
Yeah, takeoff Remington trigger. I forgot about that. Takeoff Remington trigger and Russian military 308 machine gun ammo.
Wow.
Product
and you have to delink it himself.
And it's all the action's fault, and it's like,
send it in. Yeah, I'll send you.
Here's a check.
Yeah,
yeah. I was like,
wow. Well, definitely didn't build a race car there.
Yeah, right.
He went to Rock Auto.
Yeah. You're not dropping a built small block in a Datsun 280Z.
Yeah.
So
great stuff, guys. Well, thank you for making the way to Grand Island. We were joking about, it's an hour and a half drive. Well, that gets you halfway across Germany.
Yeah.
But appreciate you coming down. You're one of our favorite action manufacturers. It's the hometown team. It's a great relationship. And, there's obviously the commercial side of stuff, and there's all kinds of things behind the scenes going on with other contracts and stuff that we work with you guys on. And so really appreciate the partnership. And thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Feelings mutual.
Glad we can do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Hornady Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed this look with Zermatt Arms out of Bennett, Nebraska, one of our partners here, one of the best action makers you're going to find, one of the companies that helped revolutionize pre-fit barrels and bring that to the forefront, something that we all enjoy. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.